suffered a hamstring injury on this play. You could see he came up hobbled. He missed 3 games with a hamstring injury last year. Similar timeline this year. The Buccaneers don't think they have to put him on injury reserve. And the good part here is that they do expect to get Chris Godwin back this week. He was a full participant in practice this week, so Godwin is tracking to be able to play Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles.
You mentioned earlier this morning, Dan, that historically Jalen Hurts has struggled against the Buccaneers. So let's dive into them a little bit. I feel ridiculous bringing up the notion that the Eagles need to change anything they're doing. They've won 19 out of their last 20 games. One of them was the Super Bowl. They've won 17 consecutive games that Jalen Hurts has finished. So clearly they're not in any trouble. However, I think a lot of people watched the second half of that game against the Rams and said, oh, wait a minute, they can do that? You know, we've forgotten A.J. Brown might be as good as any receiver in the league. Do you believe, Drew Brees goes on First Take and says that their offense is boring to watch. Do you believe the Eagles need to open it up a little bit more than they have?
No, I mean, I thought even last week in the second half comeback, all they did was put A.J. by himself and be like, hey, go run a 12-yard stop route, and he did. So I thought they were a little bit less predictable in their pass game, and that's been my issue. I don't think that they need to do more. The beauty of the Eagles' offense is, like, stop it. Go ahead and stop it and try to when it matters the most. No one's really been able to do that. I think the interesting part of it is, like, can they get Saquon going? Like, that's the quiet thing that hasn't really been said out loud this year. They're 3-0 and whatnot. Saquon hasn't gotten going. He's on, like, in comparison to last year, I mean, he's nowhere close to what he was doing last year. I mean, just look at the top numbers, 63-58. That's carries, right? Last year to this year. Last year, he was over 5.5 per carry. This year, he's under 3.5. And so, like, that's the interesting thing, part of their offense. I've talked about there's been more out of A.J. Brown. That was better last week. But they haven't gotten Saquon Barkley going. And I think that is the key this week. Like, if they don't run the ball well in early downs against Tampa, Tampa's going to fire zone blitz your face off, and that's advantage Tampa's defense.
You said nobody's been saying it out loud. I've been screaming it every day when I'm in the shop at the bus because Saquon's on my fantasy team. I need him to get going as well. you look at it's like yeah, they got to get Saquon going. Do they need to throw the ball more? I'm curious your perspective. I'm curious your perspective on, like, how you make that happen, because when you look at Saquon last year, when he's touching the rock around 20 times a game, you're getting at least 120. Right now, he is averaging around 20 carries per game, and he's getting about 60 yards on the ground. 60,
how you make what happen? What's that?
Like, how do you balance? Is it, hey, give us that second half offense? Like, what are you doing to mix in the pass to get Saquon going?
Well, I think last year they were a lot more explosive on early downs, and this year they're not. I think it's all situational as well. Like, they live in a world where their defense is so good, they're going to try to control the game. Philosophically, I don't think they want to get turnover, expose themselves to potential turnovers, and I think that's why they played a little bit close to the vest. I don't love it, but it wins. Like, it gets the job done.
Yeah, and it's also like no one cares how cute your offense is or how fun it is to watch if you're getting wins in the building. So do they have to change anything? No. Do they want to make the run game a little bit better? It's like, yeah, they're 29th in offense and passing last year. They're right there this year. You want to have some sort of a vertical threat down the field so you get that box to loosen up a little bit. Also, they've been doing a lot more plays through the middle between the tackles. If you look at last year and some of the perimeter, like tackle pulls in the perimeter, that's where Saquon can really get ahead of steam, and you have two very athletic tackles.
Last week in this space, I asked the question, are the Cardinals even good? I'm not confident they are. They fell to the injury-stricken 49ers after once again failing to post 300 total yards of offense. It won't get easier this week, with James Conner out for the season and Kyler Murray aiming to get on the same page as his pass catchers, Marvin Harrison Jr., while facing a defense that generates pressure at the fourth highest rate, 44.3%, and has not allowed an opponent to score more than 17 points this season. Seattle has all the momentum coming into Thursday night, winning back-to-back games and being the only team in the league to rank in the top 5 in both scoring offense and defense. Sam Darnold has settled in nicely with his new team, quickly building a rapport with Jackson Smith-Njigba and rookie Torrey Horton to lead an efficient passing attack that ranks 12th in yards despite being tied for 29th in attempts. I know these teams have the same record, but Seattle looks like the much better group in all three phases. Plus, Mike McDonald's Road Warriors are 8-1 in games outside of Seattle since 2024. Why Dan picked the Vikings? As the Falcons showed back in Week 2, a good way to beat the Vikings is by running the ball down their throats. Surely, Pittsburgh offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, with a reputation for being one of the league's best run game designers, can whip up a plan to seize on Atlanta's blueprint, right? Well, I'm not so sure. The Steelers rank second to last in rushing yards per game, 63, and are averaging a measly 2.8 yards per carry. Against a neutral box, 7 defenders, they are averaging just 2.3 YPC, per next-gen stats. If the Steelers don't break from that trend on their trip to the Emerald Isle, it's hard to imagine the luck of the Irish smiling upon them. A similarly run-game challenged Bengals team was no match for Brian Flores' defense last week. On the other hand, if Mike Tomlin's defense continues to take the ball away at a high rate, the turnovers can mask some of the deficiencies, especially with the Vikings once again starting backup QB Carson Wentz, who hasn't been asked to make plays in a tight, meaningful game in a few years. Why Gennaro picked the Falcons? The most obvious question, is Jaden Daniels playing in this game? After missing last week's 41-24 win over the Raiders with a sprained knee, the dynamic playmaker was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday. While it seems like there's a decent chance Jaden returns to action on Sunday, that's really not for me to say, especially if the quarterback himself is unwilling to speculate. It's up to the doctors, Daniels said. Not my decision. Could Marcus Mariota's exemplary spot start influence that decision? Perhaps. But again, I don't have these answers. Which leads us to the most interesting question: what are the Falcons? In Week 1, they barely lost to the back-to-back NFC South champion Bucs. In Week 2, they completely overwhelmed J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings. And then, this past Sunday, they were absolutely blown off the field by the Panthers. Michael Penix Jr. was benched. It was bad. So, what's in store for Week 4? It's important to note that Washington's health issues go beyond Daniels. If Terry McLaurin, quad, is unable to go, that helps a Falcons secondary that'll likely be missing CB1 A.J. Terrell, hamstring, for a second straight game. And while the Commanders' defense looks pretty good on paper, I think the stats are inflated by lackluster offensive competition in 2 of the first 3 weeks. With Atlanta's early bye on tap right after this game, Raheem Morris rallies the troops, gets the response he's anticipating from Penix and denies Dan Quinn the satisfaction of beating his old team. Why Ollie picked the Bills? Simply put, a Saints win in Buffalo on Sunday would amount to one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. The Bills have the edge, in most cases, a significant one, in nearly every area. Don't believe me? Just look at all of Buffalo's 4- and 5-star advantages in NFL Pro's matchup breakdown. But it's not all doom and gloom for New Orleans. The advanced metrics reveal 2 potential ways for the Saints to keep things interesting at Highmark Stadium. First, the Bills' defense ranks among the league's worst at stopping the pass while blitzing. Unfortunately for New Orleans, though, Buffalo blitzes at one of the lowest rates in the league. So, maybe scratch that one. Second, the Bills have allowed the most touchdowns, 3-way tie, and the 7th highest passer rating on quick throws this season. Similarly, though, that sample size is small, with Buffalo seeing the 4th fewest total quick attempts through Week 3, per next-gen stats. Can Spencer Rattler repeatedly dink and dunk New Orleans down the field for 6? I could see it happen once, maybe even twice. But it seems unfair to ask the second-year QB, who's still seeking his first NFL win, 0-9, to keep pace with reigning MVP Josh Allen for 60 minutes, why Tom picked the Lions. The Browns appear to have one part of the formula for winning NFL games, stopping the other guys, on lock, with Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward and a souped-up line clamping down on basically anyone who tries to throw. 147 passing yards allowed per game, 4th best in the league entering Week 4, or run, league best 57.3. Rushing yards allowed per game, against them. It's the other part, moving the ball themselves, that they can't quite figure out, averaging just 4.4 yards per play, tied for 27th. So let's say they slow the Lions, which is a plausible scenario, with Detroit coming off a short week and having managed just 13 points the last time they faced a defense in Cleveland's echelon, Week 1 versus the Packers. What are the Browns going to do then? Unless they can somehow actually shut Jared Goff and company out completely, they'll probably need to start pulling off their miraculous blocked kicks a little earlier than the final 30 seconds if they want a chance in this one. Why Brooke picked the Texans? There hasn't been a lot to get excited about with these teams through 3 games. Tennessee's Cam Ward has taken an NFL-high 15 sacks and averaged just 5.1 pass yards per attempt, while the Titans' offense as a whole is averaging a league-low 3.6 yards per play. The Texans have produced just 4 red zone drives in 2025 and failed to score a single touchdown in those trips. There are a few bright spots defensively, though. Tennessee is tied for 4th in takeaways, 5, and Houston boasts a top 5 scoring defense, 17.0 ppg. Both teams have made some changes this week in the hopes that those moves will help get them in the win column. Brian Callahan is taking a step back and has handed play calling duties to QB's coach Bo Hardigree, while Houston surprisingly cut veteran safety Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. The Texans' secondary could also be without star cornerback Derek Stingley Jr., oblique. Still, this talented Houston squad feels overdue for a win, and Sunday presents the golden opportunity of a divisional home game against a rebuilding foe.